Hi, it's Chip, and in this video we're going to discuss how you can set up your development environment, a very basic setup in that sense, but how you can set up your development environment so that you can check out on branches and toy around with the changes that those branches propose. For example, in this particular branch, I propose to increase the footprint of ASFs because that is more technically correct because otherwise they intersect a lot mesh-wise, and B, it's better for performance because there's going to be the air cloud's going to be less dense. But this is by all means quite a big change, and it's really important that when you form your opinion on a change, that you can actually toy around with the change and get a feeling for it. And that's what this video is going to help you do. We're going to create a development environment and tell the game about where it can find the development environment, and then start the game and confirm that everything is working. So with that said, let's get started. First of all, you're going to need some software, in particular Visual Studio Code as your editor. For this particular video, we're not going to make a whole bunch of changes, but I would highly recommend you to get it anyway. Git, because we're going to be interacting with Git and GitHub. In particular, don't get the portable version, just get the standalone version. GitHub command line interface, which is very useful to make your life quite a bit easier. In particular, it allows you to use this right here, which is something I'm going to refer back to at the end of the video. And that's about it. Next to that, you're going to need a GitHub account. Once you've got all of that set up, then the first thing that you want to do is go to the FA repository, which is this link right here. By all means, all links that I'll be using in this video, I'll make sure that in the description. And if they're not, then you can make a comment and then say, hey Chip, you promised to put them in the description, and then I'll put them in the description. So go to the main repository and you want to click on this fork button. And what the fork button does is it tells you, hey, do you want to make a local version of this repository that's attached to your account? I can't do it because I already did the forking, but that should be a simple OK. And once you have that, then you're going to have your account /FA with essentially all the files that you have in the FA folder too. And you're going to see here that you forked it from /lines /lines. So that is essentially all that we need to do in GitHub itself. Now, what we want to do is we want to clone the repository to our local system. And we can do that by copying this web URL and then navigating to a place where you want to store your repository. Now, in my case, I've got them in this delete-me folder because I already have all of this set up. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to do it again. Once you're at the location where you want your repository to be, start the command line. There we go. And make sure that we can do git -- version. If this works, then all's good. If this doesn't work, then you need to either install this or restart your computer. With that said, we're going to do git clone and then copy that and put that in. Now this clones all the information that we have here into our local version or local version of the repository of the remote. Do note that this is not a video about Git and GitHub. If you're interested in that, please, there's a really good source out there online of the coding train that's called Git and GitHub for Poets. It discusses everything about Git and GitHub that the average programmer is going to need, and it explains it quite well. So if you're new to Git and GitHub and you intend to make contributions or you intend to have a programming career in general, do yourself a massive favor and watch this playlist right here. I'll make sure that it is in the description. Meanwhile, we downloaded all the information and dang, everything's done. Now, what we did is we have this new folder called FA, And this is a copy of what we have right here. All right, so if we change directory, which is what cd stands for, it's an abbreviation, into FA, and then do git status, then it's going to think for a while, and you can see that we're at origin/develop, which means that we are at this branch right here, and the last commit here is 08E422B, and if we do a git log, then you'll see at the very top that we have not that commit. Oh, because this is not my fork. Right. So here we are, develop, and here you can see that we do have that commit that I was referring to, which is AD3, AD3, A677, A677. So everything is now in sync. Now, what is relevant here is that if we look at git status, then we're on branch develop, which is this branch right here, right? There's in my fork, there's a whole bunch of branches, but we're on develop. And we are at the origin/develop. And this is the remote, and this is the branch. And the remote means the external repository, the one on GitHub or GitLab or Gitbucket. And we can look at those remotes. Git remotes. If you're stuck in git log, make sure to press Q. Here we can see that we have one remote called origin, and if we do git remote get URL origin, then we can see that this is the URL that we copied right here. Now, we're not particularly always interested in our own fork. We're primarily interested in changes that other people want to make using pull requests and branches in the main repository. And we can do that by adding a remote, git remote add FA forever, and then we want to add this little fella. And what this does is we want to do something with Git, we want to do something with remotes, we want to add a remote, we call the remote FA forever, and it refers to this link right here. So now if we do git remote, then you can see we now have two of them. And just a sense check, git remote get -URL FA forever, we can see that this is the same path that we have there and that we have right there. Now, we want to get a branch from the main repository, but in order to do that, we have to fetch all the information first. So we do git fetch FA forever, where this is the remote that we want to fetch from. And fetching essentially means, get me all the information you have. Give me all your branches, all your releases, all the interesting stuff. I'd like to know everything. And here you can see that we have a whole bunch of branches that we now know of, and we have a whole bunch of tags used for releases that we now know of. And with that, there is this branch called ASF playtesting, which is the branch that we started when we started this video, which is this one. Right there you can see it, ASF playtesting. And we would like to check out on that. So git checkout FA forever, which is the remote that we want to search for the branch, ASF-playtesting. And that's the branch name, which is right there. There we go. Ta-da. And to confirm, we here have FA380C03A, and we have that same right there, FA380C0. So now our local repository is at the right branch and we have the right information. Now we just need to tell the game to use that information. Luckily, we're not on our own. We have these instructions where we are just interested in this first part, but if you're interested in becoming a full-fledged contributor, then you should definitely read through and apply as you see fit. Note that not everything should be applied. For example, the debugger is only interested if you want to investigate an exception / crash the desktop. And running a replay is only interested if you want to run a replay, etc. But do read through this and make sure that you're aware of its content. But for the purpose of this video, we only need to look at this section. In particular, We refer to the repository directory as the location of your repository on your system. So that would be this location right here in our infamous delete-me folder. And we refer to the bin directory as the bin folder of the installation folder of the client, which is usually this folder. In case you're wondering how often I've been trying to make this video, here's your answer. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So this would be number 10. But here we are. This is the bin folder. Now, if this doesn't get you to your bin folder, then you likely put a manual path where you want this to be installed, and then you know where that path is because you chose that directory. And we want to copy something from our repository into the bin folder. In particular, in setup/bin from the repository. So here it is setup/bin. We want to copy these 3 files into the bin folder. Now, because I've already done the video 10 times, it's going to say that I already have the files. Just replace them. And you can see here that the files have been added. And now we need to make a change to one of the initialization files that we just introduced, which is this init_dev. Now, the initialization file essentially tells the game where it needs to get its stuff from. So scripts, meshes, textures, essentially anything that's not the engine itself is described by the initialization file so that it knows where to find everything. And in particular, we're interested in where our repository is, which is this value that we need to update here at the top. And we know where our repository is because we have been working in our repository so far, and that is in this at the location that you decided, and in my case it's in my documents delete-me/fa. So I copy that path, put it in here. Now, as the comment states, don't use backslashes, use forward slashes. So let's do that. There we go. And now everything looks good. Last but not least, we want to make sure that we want to start the game by calling start_dev.bat or start_dev.bash. Note that this last one doesn't actually work at the moment. If you know why, please tell me. All right. But the bat file does work. So let's look at the bat file, because by all means, we're all going to be on Windows because there is no other operating system. So here in our bin folder, we can see the start_dev.bat file that we copied in. Now, by all means, if you run a bash or a bat file, always inspect its contents because it could be doing anything. So here we are inspecting the content. It's going to start up forge-lines.exe, which is the one right there. It's going to pass the initialization file that we have made so that it can find our repository. It enables diskwatch so that files are reloaded as we make changes. It shows the log by default. It stores the log to a file called devlog, which is right there. And a legacy parameter called runwiththewind to make sure that the game is running as fast as possible if you need it to be on older versions of the game. With that said, this is a sane bat file, so let's just start it, cross our fingers, and hope that everything works right off the bat. And there we have it. At least the video is starting. We've got the menu. Let's see if there are any particular errors. Nope, nothing unusual. Let's start just the game. Make sure we do that on our favorite map called OpenPalm's FAF version. Am I recording this? Yes. All right. Apparently had a mod enabled, so everything takes forever. Ta-da! These errors are specific to my profile. And now we can confirm and see if we have the right, if we actually have the changes that we think we have, right? Because we checked out on this branch. And in particular, the Seraphim ASF should have 4 times the regular footprint. So let's do that. Security. We have the Corona, which was the default footprint, so this one should be very dense. And we have the Seraphim one, which has quite a big footprint, so that should look like that. And there we go. You can see now that the changes have been applied. This one's very dense, right, where we have almost intersecting airplanes. It appears to be more dense here than it is here. That's all. But it's particularly less dense here with the Seraphim one. And just to confirm that everything is indeed working, let's go back to the repository, open it up with Visual Studio Code, and make a change to 0001, which is the... I actually have no idea. I think this is the command unit. Yeah, this is the command units. And let's just give this fella a more balanced amount of health. So we spawn in the command units. There you go. And now you can see the changes did apply, but I'm not seeing it in game. Maybe that's because this unit is part of the mod package. So let's just change something else. We have UEA003, which is the ASF of the UEF units. Earth Air 0303. I think it's something like that. Here you can see it, Air Security Fighter. And let's just set this footprint to 10. Again, the changes are noticed, and I happen to know, because I thought it'd be funny to try something else for once, but I happen to know that these changes work as intended. And you can see right now that they spread out, and they spread out, and they keep spreading out, and they keep spreading out. I can't zoom out any further, but yeah. Let's just say it's a bit more spread out than this and slightly more spread out than that. But the important part here is not the change itself, but the fact that we now know that the game watches our repository, our local repository, and it watches for changes. Now, as I promised, not all pull requests are going to be as easy as this to get into. For example, we have this pull request here made by... UI for mass FAPs made by Azot, but this branch is not on this repository. It's on his fork of this repository, but we can get around that by using that GitHub command line interface that I spoke about in the beginning. We can just copy this and then open up the command, the terminal right there, paste that in. Yes, that directory, bam, there we go. And because we're not really interested in the commander change, now if we would restart the game without Black Ops enabled, because that makes it all slightly slower. And there we go. Watch the speed. Now, if we start the game, then we can see that there is a tiny UI if we have fabricators. Right, there it is. And we can now see that there's 0 active fabricators and 5 inactive ones. And you can move it using your middle mouse button, open and close it, etc. But the important part here is that using the GitHub command line interface, we can very easily check out on pull requests. We don't have to do the fetching even anymore. We can just do this. Make sure that you did set the remote, because otherwise it doesn't know where to find the pull request from. That said, that's about it for this video. Using this basic setup, using only the first chapter of the setup and the development instructions, you can already check out on branches. Make sure that you get Visual Studio Code, Git, and the command line interface so that you can do everything that we did. And if you're interested in knowing more about Git, make sure to watch this particularly enthusiastic fella about Git and GitHub for poets. Yeah, I think that's it. All right.